Well, welcome back, everyone, to yet another edition of Robert's Search for Wellness and Well-Being. Meet amazing experts like Felix, like my good friend Felix, ready to support you and me change how we all feel for the better. And I believe this could be edition number 11 or 12. Not 100% sure, but it's awesome to have you here today, Felix. It's Monday, March the 4th, and I'll post this conversation with Felix Boecker, MD. I'll post this conversation on Wednesday, March the 6th. I'm Robert Mandelson, the creator and facilitator of powerful play experiences, positive workplace mental health for teams, and how thrilled I am to have my very good friend, my new best friend, Felix Boecker from Toledo, Ohio. A big hand for Toledo, Ohio.
Woohoo! Oh man, yeah.
Toledo, Ohio, by the way, Toledo, Ohio, is on the East Coast of the United States of America, and I'm here in 10 minutes south of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So I'm located in Western Canada, and Felix and I are here for a great conversation this morning. Felix is a medical doctor. He's also the business owner of Success Work. And this morning, our conversation about Robert's search for wellness and well-being, meet amazing experts like Felix, ready to support you and me change how we all feel for the better. Our conversation is a little bit about men and mental health, the importance of conversations about mental health. But we're also here to talk about, and I quote Felix, love yourself, he says, and love for yourself and love for others. Know your true, authentic self and show lots of love for yourself. And why do you say that, Felix?
Wow, that's a terrific question. Thank you for that introduction. You and I have had some incredible conversations even outside of this. So thank you for doing this. What you do resonates so deeply with me, both through my own struggles with mental health and trying to find the answers, as well as my brother's. And if you don't know about that, I just go to my LinkedIn and look at the post from Friday morning. The other thing I want to say, just interesting tip at Toledo. Yes, we are in the Eastern time zone, but we're on the Western aspect of that. So, you take a 2 or 3 hour drive west, and you'll be in the Central time zone. So we're on the northwest part of Ohio. A lot of people haven't heard about us, and that's perfectly fine. There's really not much here to Toledo. The Jeep plant is here, and I drive a Jeep. And what's interesting is I bought the Jeep in St. Louis. It was manufactured here in Toledo, and I brought it home. So it's just kind of interesting how that all worked out. But yeah, no. So coming back to where I come from with love, it's a long story, and if I bore you to death, please stop me anytime. But I love is a 4-letter word, and and I say that because I did not understand it for a very long time. I was thrown around, I love you, I love this, I love that, but I didn't truly understand for myself what love really meant. And I certainly did not have a love and appreciation for myself for the longest time. And that took a lot of work to discover that. So yes, I'm a surgeon by training. I'm actually a trauma surgeon. I used to work for the Air Force, and I went into wound care when I came to Toledo because I needed a better work-life balance. I wanted to spend more time with my kids who are here in the area, which is why there's really the only reason I moved to Toledo was because of my kids. But at that time, when I came here in late 2019, I still hadn't figured myself out. And it really bothered me to no end because here I am now, the parent of 2 wonderful children, and I'm supposed to guide them through this world when I don't even know for myself what that really meant. and took a lot of work. I've made my life is just a slew of mistakes that I would want you to avoid, right? I've made every mistake in the book. Maybe I haven't some bigger ones yet, but there's definitely every mistake you could possibly imagine I have made. Between pursuing a career that I really didn't care for, I've gotten married and divorced technically twice. I got children. I had children at a time when I really shouldn't have, because I didn't even know what to do with myself. So now I'm all of a sudden responsible for 2 more children. So name a big mistake in life. I have made it, and I don't want that. I don't really don't want other people to make that same mistake.
So
So
let me politely interject here.
yes,
So, okay. So amongst all the changes that have taken place in your life, some of them good, some of them not so good. It sounds like your search for love for yourself and love for others is at the center of it all. That search,
yes, correct.
and that search is forever, forever. It's not a beginning, middle, and end, and it's completed. And that search is giving you peace of mind when reflecting upon all the changes that have taken place in your past and all the changes that will take place in your future. So holding on to that love for yourself is one of the key pieces to your own personal well-being, your own
Yes.
personal wellness. Did I frame that pretty well there?
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, and I was just trying to set the stage for where I was coming at with this, with the love and how I found it. So back in, I used to read all the self-development books myself, try to do all the hard work myself. Like I said, I've had depression, I've been through therapy. That never really did the trick for me, because it was always focused on my past, and I was like, well, what can I do today to create a better tomorrow for myself? Can you please stop talking about my mother? My past is my past. It's done. I can't change that. I've accepted that. Whatever. I need to move on. And it wasn't until 22 that I discovered coaching for myself. And that had a profound impact on my life. I mean, that just accelerated my growth incredibly. From what I wasn't able to do really in 4 years on my own, I was able to do in about 4 months working with an incredible coach. And the reason I bring this up is my coach asked me in one of our sessions a very simple question, a question that, may sound trite, but it's a question that took me months to find the answer for. And the question quite simply was, Felix, where is your heart? That was it. Where's your heart? Now, from my medical background, right, from my purely surgical training, I was like, well, it's right here. And I was like, what do you mean? It's right here. Right. And she goes, no. I know that. I'm not talking anatomically. Where's your heart? What do you really care about? Who are you? What do you stand for? And what's interesting, at the time, I had this vision in my mind, actually, when she asked me that, where my heart was. And it was locked inside a chest that had chains around it in this old medieval dungeon, right? With a gate in front of it, and key was completely lost. Dust and cobwebs everywhere. I mean, that's literally the image that I had inside my head. I was like, I know my heart is right in that box. How do I get to it? Right. And so little by little, I opened the grate, I unlocked the chains, I opened the box, and I could, very slowly open the box. I mean, those are all images that literally appeared inside my head as I was working with her through this simple question, where is my heart?
And let me throw in something here, which is key to this conversation. If you're watching this recording with myself, Robert Mandelson, and my good friend Felix Boecker, MD, I want you to know, if you're watching this recording, that both of us live with and manage depression and anxiety. But I want to compliment you, Felix, for your story to this point in our conversation, because you are talking about your own mental health, but you don't use the words mental health. You're not even using the words mental health. And I adore what you're doing here. simply because there's an uneasiness. There's an uneasiness, a continued uneasiness with the terms mental health or mental illness. So what I totally appreciate in you and your story to this point is it's all about your mental health. It's all about your mental well-being, your mental wellness, but we're not even using that terminology. Did you realize that as you're speaking about or excuse me, as you're sharing your story?
Yeah, I do that on purpose. I really try to avoid mental health and depression as part of my vocabulary. And there's two reasons for that. One is people are uncomfortable with those subjects. And when you start throwing those terms out, people clam up, shut up, close up, and you can't continue the conversation. And so I don't want the terms to close those doors, right? The other part of all of that is, and this is a fascinating conversation I just had with Clifford Starks this morning, actually. There are so many people out there, most of us, I would say, that identify themselves by the labels that oftentimes other people put on them, right? Like advertisements on a NASCAR driver. And they identify with those labels that either society puts on them, their social circles, sometimes even to some point themselves, based on their perception of what other people should see them as or how they want to be perceived by others, instead of defining life on their own terms, creating the labels for themselves, being true to who they authentically are deep inside. And
Which,
so,
again, just to politely interject, is about love for yourself.
yes, exactly.
Forget
Exactly.
the
Right.
forget the labels. Love for yourself. Be the authentic you. Love for yourself. That in a sense is the label without
Yeah.
using, that's and we will. Love for yourself is about that.
Yes, exactly. I have a fantastic example of that. Labels truly are limiting. They limit us, right? Because all of a sudden we live our lives to that label and we don't go beyond that. So a great example of that, I think, that I've had in my own life recently is my girlfriend's daughter has ADHD, diagnosed ADHD. And I got her a Lego set for Christmas. And we're building these Legos together. And she says, "Oh, I can't follow these instructions because I have ADHD. That's why I'm not good at building Legos." And I said, "Stop. Don't think that way. You cannot let that define you. You asked me to build these Legos with you because you wanted to build these Legos. So let's build these Legos together and don't let the fact that you have ADHD limit you. Don't let that define you. You can break through that." And lo and behold, the first day we built this Lego set together, I helped her a lot. The second day, she did half of it on her own. She started building the Legos before I even had a chance to show up. And the third day, I wasn't even in the picture, right?
Love for
So
others. Love for others. Love for yourself. Love for others.
right. Absolutely. And that's where my interaction with her came from, right? As a love for her, I didn't want those labels to be defining for her. I didn't want those labels to limit her in her ability to build Legos and have a good time, right? And be who she truly is, to be true to her own authentic self. If she wants to build Legos, kiddo. I don't care. If that's what you want to do. If you want to go ride a bike, right? Do whatever you want to do. Explore the world on your terms. Don't let someone else tell you what you cannot do,
Okay,
because that's what she needs to do.
okay, so um, um, uh, we'll begin wrapping it up, but I have a question for you about how you transitioned from where you were pre love for yourself, love for others, be the authentic you, how you transitioned pre love for yourself, love for others. So how you transitioned to that thinking, to that belief system? Was it a moment in time? Was it many moments that resulted in you transitioning into that love for yourself, love for others?
Yeah, no, it was definitely a transition. There's not one moment in time. I mean, there were little instances here and there sprinkled in, but overall, it was a transformation over many months. There's an interesting, a really interesting, a stark contrast that I could see from before to now. If you think about a stereotypical surgeon, right? I used to love the fact that my patients were asleep and I didn't even have to communicate with them. And it's like, I don't need to hear your problems because I'm the one who's going to fix it anyways. So that was a very different approach to life, right? Because I didn't have that empathy. I didn't really care for who these people were. It was more about what I wanted to get out of it. But it wasn't until I started working with my coach on that in throughout really 23 is when I found the right coach for that. When I was asked that question, where is your heart? And we started to take a deep dive on who Felix really is, what my core values are, what do I stand for, that I started to see who I was, and I was able to develop in that love for myself, which then was able to help me appreciate and love others. And that's why there's two interesting thoughts that come out of that. For one, it's based on my old experience, right, as a surgeon. Especially as a trauma surgeon, there's not a single body cavity that I haven't had my finger in the last 8 years. I have discovered that we have four brains, right? And it's I say this even though I've been formally trained in anatomy. Like I said, I've operated, I've cut people into people, but we have four brains, and that really comes from my own identification of what love truly is, right? That four letter word suddenly took on meaning. And then the other thing, the only other connection that I said is because I worked with the right coach, that's really what helped me. Right? Like I said, therapy never did that for me. It's working with the right coach, and I would still be working with her if she hadn't quit. I mean, that's the sad thing. Is like I want to keep working with you, but she quit, so I can't do that right now. So, but yeah, so the four brains, and I think this is important. This is important to our discussion on love. It starts with, and I do this with my coaching clients, right? We start with figuring out who your true and authentic self is. That's where it has to start. But the four brains and the order in which you should consult them with whenever you make a decision, any decision in life, whether it's in your personal life, your professional life, business, whatever, there's four brains you need to consult. And if you don't consult any of them, your decision is going to be poor.
Okay, I'm going to
First brain.
Hold on. I just want to make a note here. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I have a whole podcast on that on my channel, so you can listen to that too at some point if you want. But the first brain is your heart. It's your heart. Listen to your heart, right? Make a decision out of love for yourself, love for the other person that's involved or the other people that are involved, love for humanity, right? Whatever it is, but you have to make the decision first and foremost out of love. So your first brain is your heart. And that's, I couldn't do that before because I didn't know where my heart was. How could I ever ask my heart something when I didn't know where my heart was? So you gotta consult your heart in any decision first. The second brain is your gut. When we talk about the gut instinct, there's some truth to that. And we're beginning to realize that more and more. And on a purely physiologic standpoint, right? If you think about it, our gut has hundreds of millions of neurons. And we know that the simplest of simple of brains that we know of only has like 200. So we have an order of magnitude more neurons in our gut than even the simplest of simple of brains. So it is a brain in and of itself, right? Now, it doesn't do the thinking, perhaps, the way the stuff between our ears does. At least we're not sure yet from a scientific standpoint, but we do know about that gut feeling that we get in certain situations. And that's our gut actually informing us, telling us something. So we got to lean into that. That's intuition that we have that we shouldn't ignore. It's the same thing. And I've noticed this in my own life looking back. Obviously I've taken hundreds of tests to become a doctor and be where I'm at. And when I make a decision on my answer choice based on my gut, I was right more often than when I made a decision with logic up here. So I learned that about myself at some point. I didn't recognize really what was going on. I just knew I need to follow my gut. And that's why your gut is your second brain that you need to consult. Your third brain that you need to consult is the stuff between your ears. That's the stuff up here, right? That's your logic brain. And there's good and bad to that because theoretically we have two brains, the left brain and the right brain, and how they interact is incredibly complex. But that's why you don't want to consult your brain first. You want to consult your heart first. Make a decision out of love, then listen to your gut instinct, and then consult your brain on the logic side of things. Now, the fourth brain are your gonads. That's the stuff between your legs. Because at the end of the day, we're all biologic creatures, right?
What was that word?
The gonads.
How do you spell that?
Gonads. DS. It's your sexual organ, right? We are, at the end of the day, biologic creatures. And from a purely biological standpoint, the only reason we exist in this world is to push our genetics into the next generation. And so there are times when we make decisions based on our sexual needs. And so that's why it's our fourth brain. And it's the last brain you should ever consult, even on those Friday nights at the bar when you're lonely and you meet an attractive another human being, right? If you really think about it, in those times, a lot of people make a decision with their gonads. They don't make a decision based out of love, from a gut feeling maybe, or even based on logic. They make a decision purely from a biological need. And so that's why it's included in the four brains.
Is this your thinking? Or do
Yes.
I pick up a book, or do I Google you need to consult your four brains and somebody else's name will come up? Is this your
This is me. I honestly, I haven't Googled it. I don't know if anybody else has come up with this. This is stuff that I've come up with probably in the shower at the gym.
Oh man, oh man. Felix Boecker, how do people find you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, Felix Boecker. That's where I'm at on LinkedIn. Honestly, the easiest way, because my name has that OE and a CK, it's German. It's really hard to spell and people mispronounce it all the time. The easiest way to connect with me is actually brokesurgeon.com. And that's my link tree. That'll link you out to LinkedIn and the podcast and my website. So that's the easiest way to connect with me is brokesurgeon.com.
Broke
Yes.
surgeon.com. Brokesurgeon.com.
Yes. It's a holdover from another project I did a few years ago. I was trying to figure out, I was so frustrated by the medical field. I got burned out, and I was trying to figure out a way to fix that, right? And I was trying to come up with some answers, and I couldn't, and that's why I stopped. It was just too frustrating for me. It was too much negativity. But at the time, I was playing around with different, monikers, if you will, and I felt like a broken surgeon because I didn't fit into the system. The system itself was broken. And it was right around the time that the term woke was very popular on social media. Everything was woke. And so I combined woke with broken and came up with broke. And so that's where broke surgeon came from.
And what do you do right now? Clearly, you're not in the business of being a surgeon. What do you do right now?
Right. I'm a life coach now. I help people elevate themselves to their highest potentials, identify their true and authentic selves, and really, I don't want anybody to live a life of someone else's dreams because I have done that for too long. I used to chase achievements, right? All these certificates and degrees and all this expensive wallpaper that I have hanging here that didn't really align with me, with who I truly am. And there's so many people out there who I've met who are, they're floating like a ship on the ocean without a captain. They just have no guidance because they don't know themselves. And so I work as a coach with individuals who want to identify their true and authentic self and truly elevate themselves to their highest potential to reach that peak performance in life so that they can live a life of their own dreams and not the dream of someone else.
You've been listening to the awesome and amazing Felix Boecker, whose business is Success Work. And he and I connected on LinkedIn some time ago. And no doubt about it, I needed to have him here today on something that I call Robert's Search for Wellness and Well-Being. Meet amazing experts just like Felix, ready to support you and me, change how we all feel for the better. So much to retain and act upon from what you shared today. Most significantly, your transition to love for yourself, love for others, and you need to consult your four brains, of which I took notes. I'm wondering where humor fits in as some form of your fifth brain, because your humor and your fun and funny is off the charts. And so I'm wondering if that if somewhere in all of this that's something like a brain as well, maybe the fifth brain.
Well, I think it comes back to the heart. And I say this, I think you have to have a love and appreciation for yourself and others in order to come up with good humor. It's one of the things that I try to instill in my daughters. Like my youngest daughter is incredibly funny. She's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, and she's only 6 years old. But one of the things that I try to tell her is it's always fine to make a joke about yourself, but never at the cost of others. Don't put other people down as part of your humor. And it's hard to learn as a 6-year-old because that's still you're still kind of crude and trying to figure things out. But it truly comes from that loving of others, right? You want them to feel better. You want them to be better. You want them to feel better about themselves, right? And I think that comes back down just to the theme of love, loving others for who they are and what they can be.
And the last thing I'll say, reflective of something you brought forward to us today, is your comment about being in the role of a surgeon and not having empathy or care for the patient that you're caring for or operating with. And you've gone like a full 360, if that's the correct expression, to all about caring, all about loving others. And I can see a little bit in why the occupation of surgeon truly was not a fit for you and your whole value and belief system. And fascinating to move from, do I really care? Do I know where my heart is? To, I very much do care, and knowing where my heart is number one. Quite the journey. And
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
as a coach, you're here to invite people to join with you in moving on that same kind of journey.
Yeah. The one thing I always knew in the surgical world is that I didn't fit in, but I never knew what that was because I didn't know myself. And, the road to become a surgeon is long. And I was just so focused on just that. How do I become a surgeon? How do I become the best surgeon? That I completely ignored myself. I mean, even during my surgical training, I always made the joke, I'm cheating on my job by having an affair with my wife. And really what that even fails to demonstrate is how much I was cheating myself by not focusing on me and what truly matters to me. I was just so focused on the outcome that I completely failed to take inventory of myself during that whole time. All I knew was I didn't fit in. They weren't my people. I didn't like the way they approached things or thought. And there's nothing wrong with surgeons. There's some amazing surgeons out there. It's just for me, I knew I didn't fit in. I didn't know why until I figured myself out.
I'm going to stop the recording, but don't leave. Don't leave. Stick around, and we'll continue this conversation behind the scenes. And you rock, Felix. You totally rock.
So do you, man. I love this project that you have because there are so many people out there with questions, and I know you're just like me trying to find the answers.
That's
And
it.
someday we will.
Okay, Robert, search for wellness and well-being. Meet amazing experts just like Felix, ready to support you and me, change how we all feel for the better. Hope you enjoyed the recording. Connect with Felix and have a great day.